Oh no, Okapi gang. We came real low in those polls. So what does this mean? Does that mean that Okapi's over? There's no Okapi gang? Ain't a real thing? No. No, no. But we do need to talk about, why did that happen? Where we're gonna go from here, and also let's talk a little bit about our new axolotl friend that be coming. So let's talk about why I think there are a lot of good reasons why this was a bad time for Okapi. Um, I think a lot of it is bad timing. I think that we have Pandison as the first created card. Pandison was a really good grass Elestral. Giraffe was revealed after I had already designed Okapi. So now you have a similar character in the same universe. So it's not as unique as something like an axolotl. It's not as crazy as something like Galaxy Cat. Well, I don't know. Galaxy Cat is kind of like Astrabbit. I think if Astrabbit wasn't in the game, Galaxy Cat it would have been a closer race. Um, Another reason why this is a bad timing for Okapi is that grass is not hurting right now. There are other types that need the card more. If somebody's looking at, well, what card do I want in the game right now? They're not going to pick a grass card right now. If they're looking at what card do I want to make this game as enjoyable as possible, it's not going to be an element that's doing fine. Then you also got to think about, well, Okapi. People have seen the picture. It's kind of it's a known quantity. But the other 7 were not known quantities. So you have, do you want the Okapi in front of you, or do you want what's behind these other 7 doors? And there's going to be a part of you that say, okay, well, it could be something better behind that door. They said there's an axolotl behind that door. I kind of want to see that. And that's understandable. And I think that's very fair, like to think, well, I want to see what this design could look like, though. But at the end of the day, how low we performed in the poll is very telling to me. I could see somewhere in the middle if people really liked it, but they were just excited to see something else. But we were very close to the bottom. And if I wasn't pushing for people, it would have been at the bottom. And that's telling to me that the current design is not as resonant as it could be. So I got to think, what could I do to help push that forward? So let's talk about a couple things that we're going to be thinking about. First off, if you already had thoughts on what could be better about the sprite, you should just drop those. But if you have other ideas on what we could do with the sprite or the render or whatever, let me know. I've done like one rough sketch. I added horns to it, made it a little more dynamic position. Um, I like it a little better, but I feel like it's still not there. And then the other thing is I thought about, well, maybe also just what's it gonna do? It's just another grass animal. What's it gonna do? Like when so I started thinking about what could its ascension be, and I came up with 2 ideas. But there are a lot of ideas that you could do. There's a lot of puns you can make with the name Okapi. Uh, so the first idea I came up with was smoke copy. Some like Okapi would be able to special ascend into uh Earth Fire Elestral when a player uses a fire spirit. And it would turn into like a burning bush, a kind of smoke everywhere, cool kid kind of Elestral instead of being like the cutesy little green guy. The other idea I had, which I think is funny, I don't think it's as good of an idea, is old copy. We don't have enough old folks in our town. No, seriously. Besides Grandpa, how many monsters can you think that are old? But then you turn around and think about how many old people you know that you're like, I love them. And you have Elestral, or you have monsters age up, they turn into adults. But what about those that are in their elderly years? Do monsters just not live old? But imagine old Copy. He can barely walk. He he hasn't gotten out in a little while. I don't know. I think more old monsters would be a cool thing to see from games in general, like baby monsters, but they're really old, like really old. And then let's also talk about the winner. Now that we've talked about, you know, why I think it was a bad time, and what I think we as the Okapi gang could do to work toward making Okapi better. Let's talk about the winner of the competition, Axolotl. I think Axolotl is a great idea. If I was not a diehard Okapi ranchera, I would have definitely voted Axolotl. I'm sorry. I also really like the fan cobra idea. It was frustrating to see it like where I kept getting where the copy kept almost passing it in the polls, and then it would get more votes. That we'd almost get there that it'd get more votes. Um, but I think the fan cobra idea was my favorite besides the axolotl. But I think also the Discord chat right after we started realizing, you know what? Yeah, it's gonna be axolotl. They're getting far enough ahead where it's just gonna be axolotl. Somebody said, "Well, the name Axolotl comes from like the god of fire and thunder," and we all went, "Fire, thunder, please." And all of a sudden it was, "Well, do we want it to be water? Do we want it to be water electric? Do we want it to be fire electric?" Um, I would love a fire electric Elestral. I think that'd be super cool. I don't know about it for an axolotl. I think fire, water, electric would be cool. But how do you make a card that is both like playable and has those? Like I feel like it's either got to be stupid, crazy, too strong, or it's just a bad card. It's probably just a bad card because it's stage 3. Um, I I think I've been convinced, even though water needs some help. I think I've been convinced that electric is the cool kind for the axolotl. I actually had axolotl in my game too. It's a starry axolotl. Um, which is like the second card that I'm like, dang, that was in my game. Um, but now that we've talked about the winner, we can move on to talk about what's laying forward for Okapi game. First off, thank you all so much. Thank you for the Elestrals team for allowing the Okapi to be in the polls in the first place. I feel like we can take a lot from that and learn about what direction we need to head to fulfill what our goals are. Um, and it's just really nice to have a game that really just listens to its community constantly and wants to support its community, wants to make the game as cool for its community as possible. Well, that's just not a thing with bigger corporations now. Gaming corporations are just so big that they don't have the luxury to do that. um so a couple things. The the most set in stone thing for me personally is working on Okapi, working on the design. If you have ideas on the design, I also thought, well, you could do snow copy after we see what the ice celestial is going to look like. Um, but let me know if you have ideas. I mean, I feel like Okapi is would be a good fan project too. Like, would be a good group project too. Um, we are looking at maybe making a casual tournament in January or February. The Okapi Cup, as I'm thinking about it. The prize would be $50 to $100, depending on how many people play. If it's just like 8 people, I could do like 50. If we get like a healthy 32 or above, I'll start looking at like $100. and the winner will also get a Sprite, like I did for Jacob with his Drataya. Um, but it will be a casual tournament, which means that it will be different rules than like a competitive tournament. The casual tournament, I'm thinking of two ideas. First would be I would just build the decks, and I would build like intentionally bad but fun decks. Like I built a Necklace and Phoenix decks that is awful, but it's really fun, and you keep thinking, oh, it could work, but it doesn't work, but it could work, but it doesn't work, but it doesn't. Um, and I have a couple other deck ideas that are on the casual side that I'm interested in. And the other idea for the tournament would be if I allow you to make your own deck, but I make a custom card for each element that you can only use for that tournament. Shake it up a little bit. And then we could also have a custom ban list because I'm just tired of seeing some of the same cards in every game. It's just ugh. Ugh. um And then the last thing, this is more of a well, I might play around with it more, might not. I was looking at making Elestrals in RPG Maker. I had some ideas on how the battle system could work in RPG Maker. Uh, I'm not the big coding person. I've done some coding, but not enough to like rehaul an entire battle system. Um, and I was thinking about just loading up my sprites, making some patches for the overworld and seeing what it would look like just to walk around in Elestrals. If that's something you interested in, let me know. Especially if you have RPG Maker experience and can help me out with that a little more. But I am interested in like being the person that like start up the first Elestral video games. Um, but that's about all we had to talk about today. I would like to thank you for being um, hanging out with the Okapi gang today. We appreciate every Okapi Desperado. We only have 2 subscribers so far, so if you want to subscribe, be in top 10, we appreciate it. And we again thank you for the whole team for including the community as much as they can, allowing for cool things like this to exist, and overall just being a great game. I was talking last night in the Discord about the financial aspect. I was trying to estimate how much a stellar should cost. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, this is such a good game, though. Like, I mean, it's such a good game aside from the Stellars. It's a good game, like even if you don't have the Stellars. And then the Stellars are just so cool. And I think the biggest thing with this game, somebody was asking, well, what other games are around to play right now? I think Elestral really is where it's at, because it is a game where if there's an issue, if there's a card quality issue, you can hit up the team and be like, yo, this card quality sucks. They gotta fix it fast. You're gonna fix it as fast as they can. If there's a balance issue, they might just errata a card. They could ban a card day one if they wanted to. If the entire community's like, man, this game is not fun because of this card. It's a community ran game, so like they could say day one, okay, look, you right, we're gonna fix it right now. And I mean they've nerfed and changed cards based on player feedback. And things like create a card are like so cool. Other games just don't do that as much. It might be. I thought it was because copyright things is why they don't really do that as much. But I don't think anybody's gonna be pushing it like that. But thank you for watching. You have a great day. Have all the positivity of Okapi and early spring. And you go win you some Elestral. Goodbye.